to 6:25.
Good? Okay. All right. Well, welcome everyone to our November 1st Town Board meeting. Before we go into our moment of silence, I do want to let you know one of our officers was hit by a car on Friday, and he seems to be doing okay. I know he's going to have a follow-up appointment today, so please keep him and his family in your thoughts. And also, slow down and pay attention when you're coming up to the schools, not only for the kids, but for our officers and everybody else who's helping with getting kids across the street. So please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all for coming. We don't have a very big crowd. We don't have a lot on the agenda, but we'll move this through quickly. A couple of things. One, we had a wonderful event, Trunk or Treat, last Sunday at the Park and Rec field out here, and also in Pottstown. So thank you to all those that organized those events. In addition, Angels and Sparrows is having a turkey trot on Thanksgiving morning. So come on out, get a few miles in before you stuff your face for the evening. And then I want to talk about our Metropolitan Transit Commission meeting last week. Quite a few updates. One, we actually have a new park bench over in the Brighton community. So 4 years, we got one park bench, so or bus stop bench. In addition, we were supposed to sign an interlocal between CATS and the town for 3 additional bus stop enhancements. That was not on the October agenda. I've requested it to be on the November 17th agenda, so keep our fingers crossed on that. Good news for future bus stop enhancements. They are totally revamping how they are going to allocate resources towards bus stop enhancements. Typically in the past, if you already had a number of people attending that bus stop, that's where they would look. But now they're going to look not only at that, but also where the development's coming, where possible work sites are going to be, and be a little more forward-looking. So I think that's going to help us in the future. The Hambright Road Park and Ride is moving along at a government pace, 18 months to design it. They are in discussions with the developer that we approved, I think, a couple weeks ago, to make sure we have a connection from their development to Hambright Road, so we extend all the way from Hambright Road to Alexanderana. And then also bus rapid transit was discussed, so that's moving forward, and that's the next phase for mass transit improvement here. On, I guess, the negative side, they had an update on their Connect Beyond regional plan. So this regional plan was about 12 different counties that collaborated. It was an update of multiple plans in the past. I was the only dissenting vote, and the reason being is it's not that I don't feel like we needed to update the plan. They're coordinating roads and mass transit, whether it's rail or bus rapid transit. But it's the issue that within the plan, they have put that the Red Line will be open in 2033. Now, as far as I know, we don't have an agreement with Norfolk Southern, and I think it's disingenuous to put in a plan that we'll be supporting and potentially raising taxes on. And we've seen the Red Line used before over the course of the last 20 years. So I said that and I stated it. I think you all have to be cognizant of what's going to come down the pike next year. With this plan, they're going to go to the community and ask for another 1% sales tax. And it would be, I think it would be a mistake if we supported it without a firm red line commitment, and I don't see that happening anytime soon. So I know that was longer than a lot of people wanted to hear from me, but Commissioner Phillips, why don't you start us off today?
Oh boy. I have one update, and it's a reminder that the Veterans Day Parade will be Saturday, November 13th in downtown. The parade starts at 10 a.m. and it is free to the public. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Commissioner Walsh?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There will be a public information session for the Torrance Trib 2 Greenway on Thursday, November 4th from 6 to 7 p.m. This will be a virtual meeting and information is available on our website. This is a community meeting to discuss the development of Torrance Trib 2 Greenway. And as you can see from the map down in the, I guess it'd be left-hand corner, that's our new Rosedale Nature Park. Hook up behind Rosedale, connecting in a couple of spots, and then a couple of neighborhoods to the north, and then crossing under I-77 over to the Park and Ride, and then eventually hooking up to our downtown Greenway system. So pretty good stuff. The hope is that it will be done in about 18 months. The Public Art Committee will meet on Wednesday, November 10th at 6:30 p.m. That meeting is currently scheduled to take place at the Town Center Building. One of the tentative topics is to discuss a recommendation for a piece of art at our new trailhead for the Vine. And from Visit Lake Norman, the Lake Norman Lacrosse Fall Classic Tournament is coming this weekend, November 6th and 7th. The Youth Lacrosse Tournament will be held at Richard Berry Park for the first time. 44 teams from 5 states are scheduled to compete. That's it.
Okay, I think there's a soccer tournament in 2 weeks, too. So they're going to be using those fields, artificial turf fields. Commissioner Boone?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. From the Lake Norman Chamber of Commerce, on November 18th at the North Stone Country Club at 11:45, the Chamber will be putting on a luncheon for the outstanding educator in the North Mecklenburg area. There will be 3 winners in 3 different categories: charter schools, private schools, and CMS schools. Please check the Chamber website for additional information. From Public Safety, on October 21st, the Chamber welcomed the 19th Annual North Mecklenburg Public Safety Awards Luncheon. And the winners from Huntersville, starting with the Huntersville Fire Department, Chief Ben Reagan presented Kopi Williams as a Firefighter of the Year. Kopi hung up his helmet after working more than 50 years in the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Fire and Rescue System. Kopi worked his last 24-hour shift alongside his son and daughter, both who are members of the Huntersville Fire Department. Also from Huntersville, Chief Hoyle, who's in the audience, awarded Officer Gavin Aaron as a Police Officer of the Year. Officer Gavin spearheaded numerous projects in the Huntington Green community, from financial support due to unemployment, medical needs, and a variety of projects while working hand in hand with Caterpillar Ministries. Just to name a few of those joint projects: clothing and food drives, the collection of school supplies, a new playground equipment for the community park. He mentors at-risk youth and helps the community find closure when a child lost her battle with cancer. Officer Gavin is an example of what community policing is all about. Thank you, Kopi and Aaron, for what you do for the town of Huntersville. Mr. Mayor, that is my report.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Hines?
Yeah, hi, it's good to see everybody. Big crowd tonight. And wanted to just thank Mr. Boone once again for filling in for me the last meeting at CRTPO. Really nothing on the agenda other than trying to get the PIO for CRTPO more engaged and out there. Our next meeting is November 17th. There is talk that it may be in person, so that would be very, very well good timing. Mr. Mayor, that's all I have.
Okay, Commissioner Munger?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. This Thursday at 3:30 p.m., I will be attending the Huntersville Ordinance Advisory Board meeting. And then this Friday, November 5th, I'll be participating in a discussion with Mecklenburg County officials regarding the Rosenwald School's designation as a historic landmark. So looking forward to that. And then just to finish it up, please consider donating to your local charities. And that's all I have.
Okay. Commissioner Bales?
Good evening, everyone. It's great to be here tonight. I have two small updates. The first one is that the EDC is currently working on 27 projects. 11 of those are in Huntersville. They've gone back through and they periodically clean those up and make sure that everything is relevant. And so that's what they're currently working on. In addition to Commissioner Boone's report with the Lake Norman Chamber, the Education Luncheon, we will also be awarding an Inspire Our Future Award to a business, an area business, that has worked to give back to our area schools. And that is all I have this evening. Thank you.
Okay. All right, any questions of staff at this time? Okay. Do we have a motion for the agenda?
Motion for the agenda as presented.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor? All right, 6-0. All right, we'll go to public hearings. Conduct a public, which will open, conduct a public hearing on petition R21-10, a request by ADE 883 LLC to rezone 10401 Hambright Road from corporate business to corporate business conditional district to reduce the planting requirement of the 80-foot commercial business buffer. The applicant has requested the public hearing be continued to December 6th, which I know Commissioner Hines and I are terribly disappointed.
Yes, we are.
Do I have a motion to continue?
Sure. I'd like to make a motion to continue the public hearing for petition R21-10 until December 6, 2021, at 6 p.m. to be held at the recreations. No, actually, at Town Hall.
Town Hall?
Yep.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? All right, move on. Okay, let's go out of other business. 8A, consider decision on petition TA 21-12, a request by the Huntersville Engineering Department to amend Article 14 of the Huntersville zoning ordinance regarding traffic impact analysis. Mr. Trott?
Good evening.
How many times have you been here to talk about this?
Several,
Several? Okay.
yes. Good evening. I'll try to keep my presentation short. You've seen a lot of this information before, so a lot of this is a repeat, but we'll go through it one more time. So what can TIAs help us find? They can help us find a way to quantify the traffic and compare different scenarios for development proposals. When you do a TIA, what are you looking to find? You want to know if there's impacted intersections, and if there are, is there something that needs to be fixed? Is there a turn lane that needs to be added, and what are those items? So before you this evening, there's two different options, and option one has three different parts. Those parts all change thresholds relating to study of the TA. The first being raising the study threshold. The second being deferring TIAs that are large in scope. The DOT is also requiring a TA for it to the DOT. And the third is raising the threshold for study intersections from its current level. Option two is to not require a TA for the town at all. One more thing on option one is there's three parts to this, the three that are up there. Each of those options are independent and separate, meaning they could be all together or done independently and still be applicable. So just a quick table here. So above the blue line, those are the TIAs that have been done that if the town had raised, or when the town raises that threshold, developments like those would no longer require study. If it's a choice to remove the town from doing a TIA, if NCDOT requires a study, then the bottom of the list, below the red line, would then be deferred to NCDOT. Pay attention to the column on the very right there where it says, is mitigation required? If you'll notice, most of those above the blue line, which is the 150 and 1500 threshold, most of those mitigation was not required. So that's the data behind recommending the increase. Eliminating those, or not doing those TIAs when most times mitigation is not required. For the ones below the red line, you'll see the answer is all yes. So why have a TIA for that? Well, what we've seen is that in most times when the town TIA is done for the town and also NCDOT, the mitigation or improvements needed are very similar. They're not always exactly the same, but most of the times they're similar. So we're kind of repeating some effort there when we could just defer to DOT and let them do it. So that leaves the block in the middle, where if the thresholds are raised or things are deferred to DOT, that a TA would still be required, and in most cases, mitigation for the town would be needed. Second table, again, this is something that's been shown before. This shows where developments have done or will be doing mitigation. This table shows that most older developments, yes, those improvements are in, but when a rezoning gets approved, it takes months, years, and typically years to get those improvements in. So it's not something that's instant, the next month or the next year. When a development is approved that these improvements get completed, it's typically years after that those get done. So just in quick summary, option one is to do all three, raise the threshold to complete a TIA to 150 or 1,500 trips. Part B is the town engineer can waive the town TA requirement if NCDOT is requiring a TIA. And third part is raising that threshold to study intersections to 40 trips on an approach or 70 to an intersection to study that and see if mitigation is needed. And then option two is to eliminate Article 14 and not have a town TIA at all. And be happy to answer any questions you have.
Okay. Any questions, motions? Commissioner Hines?
Mr. Trott, thank you. I've talked about this for 6 years, and if not longer than that. For all the boys and girls watching at home, what, on number one, raise the thresholds to be studied to 40 trips on an approach to 70 in an intersection. Can you help us understand what that means?
Sure. So currently in the ordinance, how study intersections are identified, what intersections we need to study or not, is if the site is anticipated to create more than 30 trips on an intersection approach, or 50 if you add all the approaches up, then that has to be studied. What we're noticing is the ones that are just over that threshold, maybe there's 33 trips on an approach or 55 at an intersection, it's being studied, but no mitigation is being required. So the recommendation is to raise that so that we reduce the number of intersections that are studied, but when an intersection is studied, it's more likely that improvements would be needed.
So someone could be required to do a TIA because they're over 150 peak hours, but also not need to do a TIA because they don't impact the trips on approach?
Yeah, so how the process works is first we see if they're over that threshold, the study threshold. If it's a yes, then we move into scoping. That's where you figure out what you're going to study. There are cases, and there have been cases, where you've been over that, or just barely over that initial threshold, but then you look and see, well, the traffic's going to be spread out to multiple intersections. Are there any intersections above? Sometimes that answer is no, and if so, no TIA is needed. So it's kind of a two-part test. Are you over the first threshold? Yes. Then you have this second threshold to see what you have to study.
Okay. Can you go to the next slide, please?
I think that's my last one.
I'm sorry?
Go back a slide.
Go back a slide
Didn't we
or
do
two?
this like 4 weeks ago?
I'm just getting clarification, Mr. Mayor, from my colleagues up here. Of the 11 projects here between the blue and the red, North State Mixed-Use Development, they did a TIA, approved not long ago. What improvements were required? I know they haven't been built yet based off of the next slide. Mm-hmm. And will they be built?
So in that rezoning, there was one improvement that was identified for that development. As part of the rezoning approval, there was an option in there for an escrow account in lieu of construction as an option. As far as the details on how that gets worked out, I'll probably defer to legal to see, how those things would get implemented.
Okay. So, Ms. Sloot, do we have the legislative authority to accept fee in lieu for road improvements?
We do for subdivision exactions. There's specific fee in lieu authority for things that are set forth in 160D 804. Among other things, that's roads within subdivisions, yes.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions, motions, comments?
Anybody else has a question, I'll make a motion.
Okay, Commissioner Hines?
I'd like to make a motion that we repeal Article 14 from the zoning ordinance.
Second.
Commissioner Phillips? All right, any discussion?
Question.
Commissioner Munger? Oh, well, I'll let Commissioner Hines, he was the maker of the motion, so
Absolutely.
I'll let him go.
I was on the planning board in 2007 when we first enacted the TIA. And I think at the time, we thought it was the right tool and the right mechanism for trying to handle some of our infrastructure challenges we had at the time and knowing that the challenges that were coming in the future. So we've talked about this in the late 2000s, and in 2015, I was appointed to the Huntersville Ordinance Advisory Board. I was on there for 2 or 3 years before coming to this board. And we have always talked about the TIA, how to refine it, how to make it better, how to make it more equitable. In 2019, the HOAB board created a subcommittee. In the subcommittee, I mean, they kind of sum it up very well. The current method of a TIA is complex, limited in scope, expensive, time-consuming for the applicant and town staff, and does not capture all of the impacts to the roadway system. Then they continue on to say the TI ordinance also places an undue burden on residents, since the town will have to fund and construct improvements when a developer isn't required to do so. So the TIA is limited really to intersections, but it doesn't address roadway segments and those kind of things. So as this is my last few board meetings that I have, we've talked consistently about the TIA and what can be done. This committee started in March of 2009, came up with their findings in December of 2019, came with 5 recommendations. So, from all of that, what I've heard and what I've experienced and what I've tried to understand with this TIA is it's a burden on the future residents and businesses. It impacts affordability. It's not equitable for either developers or taxpayers. It's a reactive approach to mitigation. It's like a false sense of road improvements coming down the road, as we can see by a lot of these things. We throw out TIA and it's a comfort level, it's a security blanket. The amount of staff time and the resources, just the HOAB board for 6 months studying this. It also has limited abilities. I mean, for schools, because of one of the House bills, the schools don't even do TIAs. We have to do the improvements if we require them to do a TIA. And if they have to do road improvements by NCDOT, the state has to pay for it. The developers don't have condemnation authority. So in a situation like Spring Grove that was approved, there was an improvement on 115 in front of Dove's Tire. If they can't acquire the right-of-way, we can't, unless this board is willing to condemn the property, that kind of dies in the water, I think. It's not equitable. I mean, really, it's the last in line is the one that is penalized the most. I mean, we don't even study the intersections that are on the adopted or funded STIP plan. And doesn't act for, I don't think it acts for growth that's coming from our other neighbors. I mean, Lincoln County, where I live, I mean, cars are coming in all day long from Lincoln County. I mean, but those impact our intersections. So I think the problem we're trying to solve is we're just trying to figure out an equitable way to solve our traffic. And so far, what we have is what we currently have doesn't produce the results that I think we all desire. So the way I do it in my business, if something's not working, instead of just kicking it down or carrying down the road, I just burn the ship. And I mean, that gets rid of all the source of retreat to go back to something that was flawed in the first place. So I know that this board, and I know that every person on staff probably, and every HOAB board member and planning board member wants to figure this thing out. I just, under the personal belief that we haven't figured it out in 6 years since I've somewhat been involved. The only way to do it is like, you'll take action when your hair's on fire. So if we eliminate it altogether, I just think that that is the time that we will get down to business, we'll figure out an equitable way. And maybe that is, if we really want to solve the problems, be proactive. We know the road intersections need to be improved. We can raise taxes, we can do state legislature, we can change our town charter. I think there's a lot of different ways. I just believe because we've been at this so long, the only way we're gonna figure it out is if we got nothing and we got to act quick. So that's why I made the motion.
Okay. Commissioner Munger, you had something you wanted to add?
Yes, I do. Thank you. Quick question for staff. If we don't have a TIA, how do we know when an intersection needs to be improved? What's the criteria to put in like a right turn lane, a left turn lane, or any type of general improvement to an inadequate intersection?
We can either rely on feedback from residents or citizens, or we can take a proactive approach to study those on a regular basis.
So you essentially have to do a TIA-ish type study to determine whether or not an intersection needs to be improved. All right,
Yes.
thank you. On the page with the red line, blue line. Thank you. It looks like there are 11 projects between the red line, blue line, and of those, I'm counting 7 that required mitigation. Is that, out of curiosity, and I know you probably don't have an exact number, so I'm going to ask a generalized question. How much of mitigation would the developers be paying for this? And I'll state it simply: tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, or millions of dollars?
Yeah, I would guess probably in the millions as far as what mitigation, if you added them all up together.
Right. So that's millions of dollars that developers put forth that we don't have to, thereby saving taxpayer funds. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, sort of.
Sort of. Okay. One of the number one problems I hear repeatedly is that we have traffic issues. So the idea that we're going to give away our only real tool to deal with traffic and say, you know what, it doesn't work, so the heck with it, let's just scrap it, rather than something that the HOAB has passed, the planning board has passed, planning staff supports. We're gonna say, you know what, we don't need this tool that's going to save taxpayers money. It's not important to us. And next time when they come and say, you know, we'll say, hey, NCDOT, they'll take care of it. I mean, there's nothing we can do. So, trying to be even keel about this, but the idea that we're going to give up our only tool, throw away that tool out of the toolbox and just say, the heck with it. Some generation down there will figure out how to deal with traffic. It's not our problem, is ridiculous. So, I do not support the motion, and I would prefer the option that the planning staff supports, which is the 1, 2, 3. So,
Are you amending the motion?
I may later. I'm going to leave it alone for now.
Okay. Any other, Commissioner Walsh?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I absolutely agree with, and I appreciate Commissioner Hines' concerns. It is truly an imperfect tool, but it's all we've got. Is it completely broken? Well, obviously, if we're getting millions of dollars from developers to help improve roads, and every one of us are out there talking to constituents saying we're doing what we can about roads, shovel-ready projects, you know, NCDOT projects coming to town, and it's kind of hard to sit here and, to Commissioner Munger's point, just say we're going to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Do we need to fix it? Yes. So I'd like to make a substitute motion. I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Amend the motion?
Amend a motion, sorry. I'd like to make a motion to approve petition TA 2112 to amend Article 14 of the Huntersville zoning ordinance regarding the traffic impact analysis with the following. Raise the threshold to require a TIA to 150 peak hours or 1,500 daily trips. Provide the town engineer with the option to waive a TIA if NCDOT requires a TIA, and raise the threshold on intersections to be studied when a TIA is required to 40 site trips on an intersection approach or 70 trips at an intersection. I'd also like to add to the motion that our town board create a new TIA subcommittee to pick up the work where the previous HOAB TIA subcommittee, and have that in place by the end of January 2022.
I'll second that.
Commissioner Bales? Okay. We have a discussion. Commissioner Walsh, you made that amended motion. Would you like to say anything else?
I mean, I think I've said it all. We're not going to leave millions of dollars on the table just because something doesn't work perfectly.
Okay. Commissioner Hines?
Yeah, I want to follow up on Commissioner Munger's statement, and, you know, the millions of dollars that we're losing. So I think everybody needs to understand the way the process works. If you're on a state road, you may do a TIA, you talk to our town staff about driveway, but you have to get a driveway permit from NCDOT. So, Mr. Trott, of those 11 there, do you know what improvements are overlapping with what NCDOT was requiring in the first place?
I'd say on the whole list, no. I would assume that those above the red line, so I'll say 2/3 of the table, those wouldn't have required an NCDOT TIA at all. So those likely wouldn't have occurred.
But
don't
that
know
doesn't
for
mean
sure.
that they don't require road improvements because they didn't do a TIA. Is that correct?
That's correct. They could still require road improvements or driveway improvements. That's
Because they could they could require a decel lane, 150 feet of stacking, or left turn lane into it without a TIA.
That's correct. The state can, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Bales?
The last several days, as we've been getting the agenda and reviewing the Ordinance Advisory Board's TIA Subcommittee Preliminary Findings Report, which I believe Commissioner Hines has referenced in part. One of the things that I found interesting in this report was that we all acknowledge the TIA is not perfect. Even with the changes that are being recommended, we acknowledge the TIA is not perfect, correct? I appreciate Commissioner Walsh's motion. Not only was I concerned about just throwing out the TIA entirely without looking for additional solutions, and I believe that you recommended that by creating a subcommittee to pick up where the preliminary findings report left off. I believe that that is what we are expected to do, which is to do the heavy lifting and to do the work and to find proactive solutions. I will be supporting Commissioner Walsh's motion as indicated by my second, because number one, I believe I listened to staff, to Ordinance Advisory Board, and to the Planning Board, and in addition to that, I believe it is incumbent upon this board and future boards to make sure that they are continuing to look for proactive solutions to address our transportation needs. I had a conversation with Ms. Sloop today about possible opportunities that this board could potentially look to and investigate and go to Raleigh, ask for various things, but I think that it starts here. It starts with approving this piece and being proactive and moving forward with this subcommittee. So I will be supporting that this evening. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Phillips?
So it's a rare thing when Brian Hines and I agree on development things, so I think when we do, I think it's the right solution. TIAs are a false sense of security, and some of the controversial projects and how the TIA didn't help include Oak Grove Hill. Didn't require TIA mitigation, yet traffic in the area is awful and was the main concern for citizens but not taken into consideration, and there are evidence and videos not allowed to be shared. Spring Grove required a TIA that impacts Dove Tire and requires using the land without discussing it with them or acknowledging if they would even like to sell it. North State required one that led to doing a right turn lane at Cashins that cuts through the awning of the gas pumps. They were not consulted about this, nor was the EPA. This TIA was during the peak of COVID, which did not reflect realistic trips generated. More road improvements were probably needed, but will never be required. And my favorite, Burtdale impacted Beatty's Ford and Gilead Road, yet Lincoln County and Cornelius used Beatty's Ford in 73, and that is not taken into consideration, so people miles away must do road improvements that their business does not impact. This is not proportional to the impact that they've made on the community, and yet forced to do road upgrades that the town or state should be doing. I don't even understand how that part's ethical. Things not taken into consideration when the TIA is being done/calculated include traffic accidents on 77, accidents in the area, shutdowns like COVID. A snapshot of a single day in the year does not reflect the true magnitude of traffic and should not be what navigates a project. We say we want smaller communities and small business to come here, but they can't afford the TIA game, and the larger developers have figured out how to work around them. The last project or business that comes into an area usually gets stuck doing all the road improvements, or the vast majority of them, and the previous projects/businesses do not have to contribute the same. This makes it difficult on little and small businesses and projects because they must do the work and invest so much money before even breaking ground. Larger developers/projects have the capital to wait it out and let others break ground first. That's not fair. You are not making everyone pay for the impacts that they create. It should also be noted that if a private landowner doesn't wish to fork their land over to a developer for TIA improvements after waiting periods and discussions, the town can possibly work as their muscle for the developer and take the land from the people on the developer's behalf. This is allowed because it is a town-required upgrade. The TIA process is not equitable and it is not transparent. It needs to be repealed until a better replacement is created. We want equality and fairness in our government, and the TIA process is hands down the most unfair thing I've ever witnessed. If we want to be equitable, everyone should pay or no one should pay, because every single project makes some sort of impact on our town. An antiquated formula should not be the basis of our roads. It just doesn't work.
Certainly some passion behind this subject.
Tired of talking about it.
Any other, Commissioner Boone?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just going to mention this is a very emotional topic for a lot of people. I think the key to this is the subcommittee, getting people in the room that know a little bit about the TIA. I'd recommend former planning board chairs, possibly Anderson, Bankier, and Matt Jones, to sit down on this committee and figure out maybe there is a solution to this, where we're not only studying the intersections, but we're also studying the connectivity in the neighborhoods that aren't impacted by the traffic once we decide to put a development in there. I'll be supporting the amended motion. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Bales?
I just wanted to share one other thing from the findings from the TIA subcommittee. It says the best course of action is to pursue a multi-layered approach, combining enabling additional legislative tools, technical changes to the TIA, and comprehensive transportation planning. A thorough review of the town's sources of authority, especially in combination, could result in better mitigation of traffic impacts as compared to the current standalone TIA ordinance. Professional engineering and legal consulting services would likely be required, but feasibility, risk assessment, and return on investment analysis should be included. It says the existing TIA ordinance does provide some community benefits and should not be rescinded without adopting a better mechanism to replace it.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? All right. So we have Commissioner Walsh's motion to modify the TIA in 3 different ways, and Commissioner Bales second. No further discussion? All those in favor of Commissioner Walsh's motion? All those opposed? That motion passes 4-2. All right. Mr. Trott, thank you for all your effort. It's good seeing you. And
You're welcome.
you may be here again for this. You never know.
Sure.
All right. final item on our agenda is 8B, consider adopting resolution to approve the contract for Shook Kelly to produce the Town of Huntersville 2022 downtown plan. Is there a motion?
I would
Commissioner
like to
Bales?
make a motion that we adopt the downtown plan contract approval, and that the contract contains a not-to-exceed amount of $150,000. This reflects the approved budget for the project for fiscal year 2021-2022.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Does anybody want to hear from Mr. Hill?
Hey, Mr. Hill.
All right, okay. All those in favor? Seeing none opposed, that motion passes 6-0. Do I have a motion for the consent agenda?
Make a
Motion
motion
to-
to, for the, accept the consent agenda?
Commissioner Walsh,
Second.
second. Commissioner Munger. Any discussion? All those in favor? 6-0. Any closing comments?
Let's have
I
one.
have a lot.
Can I?
Yeah, Commissioner Hines.
I just want to wish all of my friends up here at the dais good luck tomorrow. I know it's been a long road for you, and I am extremely thrilled and satisfied that I'm not there with you. I will sleep in tomorrow when you all are getting up early. But I think just to all the other candidates, I mean, you know, like tonight is a good example. Like we all care about our community. We have different ways of getting to, you know, to conclusions. We don't always agree. We respectfully have conversation, and at the end of the day, we're still friends. So things didn't go the way I think they should have gone, and I think they'll probably come around later. But at the end of the day, I mean, that's the way that we do it here in Huntersville, and I appreciate all of you. I look forward to best of luck tomorrow, and look forward to seeing who the new board's going to be.
Okay. Commissioner Munger?
Yeah, just a real quick comment. I forgot to mention, I most likely will sadly be missing the next meeting. So just want to throw it out there. My apologies in advance. I had a work thing, so I won't be here.
Commissioner Walsh?
I'd also like to say, good, you know, everybody knows Election Day tomorrow. Good luck to everybody who's running, and congratulations to those who are not.
Yep.
And get some sleep.
Okay. Anybody else? Commissioner Bales?
The only thing that I would add is, for the folks that have not voted yet, please come out and vote.
Okay. Yep. All right, so I have 3 hours of comments. No, however.
This would be your last meeting.
Polls do open 6:30 and close at 7:30. No, I wanted to announce that we closed on the Blythe Building to 760 Brewing last Wednesday, so the check's cleared, which is great, and they will be here hopefully in 2 weeks to show you what their plans are, and I think everybody's going to be very excited. Also on Friday, we're doing a ribbon cutting for the trailhead next to 760 Brewing, and I think people really understand the vision of what our downtown is going to be. And also, good luck to everybody. Having been there 5 times over the last 12 years or so. I am going to sleep in too. So, motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
No discussion, I assume. All those in favor? All right.
I got 17 minutes. We need to talk.
See you all tomorrow.